Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Who Gives a Split by Jamie Lee Scott. Narrated by Gabra Zackman and Todd McLaren. Chapter 1. My mom is a petite lady, and the binoculars she wore around her neck possibly weighed more than she did. Nevertheless, she hefted them up to her face and pressed them so hard against her eyes that she had deep red rings embedded around their outsides. We had the same eyes, and I had her hair. Only my mom didn't color her dark brown hair. It looked almost black, and I did. I loved the chocolate brown hue with the caramel highlights. I paid a fortune for it, mostly to cover the gray already rearing its ugly head. My mother didn't have a single gray hair on that tiny head of hers. I had a smaller pair of binoculars and a nice Panasonic camera with a sick zoom lens handy. I waited for my mom to say something. I wasn't looking through my lenses anymore, only watching my mom as she looked through hers, her mouth agape. I'm sure if I could see them, her eyes would be wide. I'd taken my pictures. What pictures, you ask? I should let Mom describe it. What's going on, Mom? What are you going to write in your report? I couldn't wait to hear what she was going to say. Slowly, she lowered the massive binoculars from her face. Lady, if your husband is putting it to you like that on a regular basis, you should be a very happy woman, and he shouldn't have enough energy to be catting around on you. Now my mouth was agape. I'm Mimi Capurro, and I own the Gotcha Detective Agency. I brought my mom along with me on a stakeout to spy on a husband who was suspected of cheating on his wife. As of that moment, he was no longer suspected. He was guilty. Mom, that's not how we break the news to our clients. I choked back a chuckle. Fine, but that's what I'd want to say. She scrunched her face. But maybe he's not so energetic in the sack with her. Maybe this new lady has given him newfound vigor. She wiggled her brows. My mom had come into my office earlier that morning to apply for an open position with the agency. We'd been getting along without our former agent, Jackie McLaren, for several months. I thought I'd miss my former best friend, but considering the way she left the agency, I didn't miss her at all. And her threat to start her own private detective agency must not have panned out, because I didn't see any advertising, and we hadn't crossed paths. Recently, my business partner and I decided we needed to bring in another apprentice private detective to build the business. Charles's other obligations had been keeping him away more often than usual, and we both agreed that we needed to expand. We'd only put an ad on 3 of the job search websites on Monday, and the next day, my mom was sitting with me, watching a man humping a woman who wasn't his wife. We had a clear view from our vantage point and could see his lily-white butt pumping and the dimples in his ass puckering with each thrust. His pot belly flopped back and forth like a huge boob. I thought my mom would be more disgusted, but she seemed amused. The reason we were watching wasn't as amusing, since we made a good portion of our money tailing cheating spouses. A lagging economy did wonders for our business. Seems financial woes cause spouses to cheat. There may not be money to buy groceries or clothes for the kids, but there's always money for the other woman/man, or to pay for a private eye to tail a cheater. I didn't think my mom was right for the job. Besides, she didn't need a job. She was nearly 60, for goodness sake, and Luke took care of her just fine. But Luke still worked, because he'd be bored to death if he didn't. I think my mom was bored, too. They'd already gone on 2 cruises last year, and after the ship had a mishap and they were stranded for 6 extra days in Alaska, my mom vowed never to take another cruise. I was hoping for something gross, or overtly sexy, that would turn her stomach, and she'd rethink coming to work for me. I certainly wasn't going to tell her she couldn't have the job. When she arrived, dressed in black stretch skinny jeans, a long-sleeved black danskin shirt, and black high-top sneakers, I wanted to pull out my cell phone and snap a picture to put on Instagram. She looked so adorable. She even had a backpack with her stakeout goodies. Until we get pictures of his face, I don't think we can tell his wife anything, unless she can identify him by his wrinkly pumping tush. She put her field glasses back to her eyes. Well, I guess he's all humped out. Get your camera ready. My mother just said pumping tush. She might be able to handle working at the agency after all, but I wasn't sure I'd live through it. And I still hadn't run it by my business partner and best buddy, Charles Parks. It'd be just my luck if Charles's mom would want to come to work next. Scratch that. Charles and his mother would never be able to work together. Besides, I wasn't sure his mother had ever worked a day in her life, unless killing off husbands was considered a career. "Are you ready? He's going to look this way and you're going to miss it." My mom sounded excited. "I'm on it." I had the camera up and was looking at the LCD screen. I had a great shot if he'd just looked toward the window. "Sometimes, Ma, I think they want to get caught." Distracted, she said, "Why's that, hun?" "If they didn't, why do you think they'd leave the curtains open?" I'd always wondered this, but rarely, if ever, had someone else in the car to ask the question to. And when I got back to the office, I usually had other things on my mind by then, so I forgot to ask the others their thoughts on this. "I don't think they are even remotely considering the stupid window, or who might be looking in on them when they are tearing their clothes off and going skin on skin. Maybe after they've been together a while, or when their spouse starts asking too many questions, but not at first." She sounded like she'd been there, done that. I wasn't going to ask. I didn't want to know. Who wants to even admit that their parents had to have sex for them to be born? Ick. And there was the money shot. Boom. He turned for just a second, then actually realized the blinds were open. I got several photos as he turned to close them. Yes, we were hitting pay dirt, and we'd have a happy, or very unhappy, client. "Our work here is done." I pulled out my notebook. "We just need to log the time and make a report for the client." Mom put her binoculars back in the case and back in her pack, then pulled off her black beanie. "That didn't take long. I didn't even have to pee in a coffee can." I rolled my eyes. "These are the cases we pray for." "I was hoping for a difficult one." She frowned. "You know, so I'd be all, yeah, it can only get better from here and all." Maybe she'd get bored and go home from here. I didn't respond because there was nothing to say to that. I put my camera away and logged my time. "Speaking of better from here, are you still giving away the milk for free?" She put her seatbelt on as I started the pickup. "What?" My mom came up with the weirdest stuff. "You know he's never going to buy the cow if the milk is free," she admonished. I heard the words, and I wanted to make a sharp right and run the company pickup into a phone pole. "We're not getting married, Mom. I don't even know if I can. You do realize I'm already married." I gripped the steering wheel so tight my fingers ached. "You need to see a lawyer about that. Dominic has ruined your life long enough. This is sick, the way you hold on. It's time to split the sheets. Everyone else considers him dead. The FBI said as much. Time to move on. Even the life insurance company has paid off. Via con Dios." I slammed my foot on the brakes as I pulled over to the curb just a few blocks from where we'd been parked. "You're beating a dead horse now, Mom. I've been working with an attorney. The court system doesn't move that fast. I sold my house. That's a step. I'm not selling the Victorian. It's too much hassle to move all of the records and stuff for the business." "I wouldn't sell that house either, but I would move into it and make it a home. It's got lovely architecture and big rooms. You could have a big family. A big family with a new husband." Her way of saying lots of kids without saying lots of kids. She wanted grandchildren that she didn't have to fly or drive 600 miles to see. Who knew, if Nick and I did decide to have kids, we could move too. We could have a big family in Nick's house too. "Not if you don't get married," she said in a sing-song voice. "You need to leave your ghosts behind." I pulled back onto the road. I wasn't in the mood for a fight. "Nick and I moved in together. That's enough for now." Under her breath, she said, "Stubborn." I heard that. "You were supposed to." A few months back, after an investigation we'd worked alongside Nick, he'd asked me to dinner. It was a beautiful dinner at one of our favorite restaurants in Salinas, but before we could even settle in, Nick was called away. The thing was, the way it was set up, it looked as if he was going to propose. The dinner, the wine bucket set up at the table, the way he greeted me at the table. I'd been so relieved when he had to leave. I'd never tell him that. I don't know if he got cold feet or if it was my imagination, but the next day we talked and agreed that I should sell my house, invest the money, and move in with him. I can't say my Doberman, Lola, was as thrilled with the idea as I was. For the first 2 weeks she had diarrhea. I think she worried that I was going to leave her there and never come back. Or the change scared her. Whatever it was, she got over it. Nick did everything he could to make her feel at home. Once she let go of her neurotic ways, she understood she had more room inside and outside. And Nick bought her better dog food. My boyfriend, Nick Christensen, is a homicide detective with the Salinas Police Department. We go way back, but we were only recently in each other's lives again. We bonded over a decapitated body. Well, not literally over it. It's a long story, but we're now living together. My mom always liked Nick, even when he didn't deserve it. She'd even held out hope back when he played in the NFL, when he wouldn't even acknowledge that I existed. She was on his side then, too. "Your phone is vibrating," Mom said, a bit too seductively. She was creeping me out. What had her new relationship and marriage to Luke done to her? They hadn't even been married that long. I had to think about it. Was it even a year? A daughter should remember these things, except I wasn't there for the wedding, so I didn't even really know the exact date. They'd eloped. She picked the phone up off the dashboard. "Oh, it's just Charles." She handed it to me. "What's up?" "Hello to you, too." He let me know my greeting was rude. "What's up?" I repeated, not in the mood. "I need you to meet me in Pacific Grove." He gave me the address. "We have a new case." "Text me the address. I'm in the car. I'll drop my mom off at the agency and drive right over."
Chapter 2. Charles. When a restaurant is overlooking the Pacific Ocean, that should be the best view within miles. But in this case, it wasn't. Just inside and standing next to me was Max Daniels. That was the best view. I'm Charles Parks, the best-looking man to ever stand next to Max Daniels, and co-owner of the Gotcha Detective Agency. Though the agency was only one of my jobs, it was a job I took seriously, because Mimi meant a lot to me, and I couldn't let her down. Being the computer forensics guru for the company, I could see things in a computer that even the government couldn't. Maybe this was why the government had seen fit to re-invade my life recently. But that's a story for another day. On this day, I was with one of my favorite people, and drinking one of my favorite beverages. Max and I had been invited by his dad, Ernie Daniels, to attend a vintage wine auction preview. Max's dad ran with some pretty sketchy types. This coming from me. Not everyone makes their money from being a corporate CEO or a real estate mogul. Some sell arms to foreign countries, yet sit on the boards of hospitals as if they are legitimate businessmen. A few of those people were milling about the room with us as we looked at the lots of vintage wines being offered for the auction on Friday night. The auction's host and owner of the restaurant was Aidan Beck. Aidan dressed in tailored suits and wore Italian leather shoes I was sure he didn't polish himself. He stood just under 6 feet with a slight build, chocolate skin, and black hair. His facial features were sharp, making him handsome, but too stern to be actually good-looking. He also happened to be co-owner of the auction company selling the wines on display. A younger version of Aidan flitted about, making sure everyone had a nice glass of Burgundy Grand Cru in their hand as they inspected the lots available and took notes. Ernie pulled Max and me aside. "It's the lot at the far end of the room, number 18. There's something off about the label. I'm sure of it. I saw it yesterday when I was helping Aidan set up." Max looked at his dad with wide eyes. "You helped set up?" Ernie frowned. "Don't look at me like that, son. You don't know what I do. Besides, it's a gentleman's thing. We help each other. Next time I have an auction of my wines, he'll reciprocate." Now Max chuckled. "When have you ever sold any of your wines? You're in the process of building another wine room." "That's beside the point." He glanced around, waving at an expensive-looking couple who appeared to be in their 40s. They'd just arrived. Looking back, he said, "That's Bruno's winery. I'm positive he didn't bottle that label in the early 80s. And that label says 1982. I need to know who's offering this lot." This was ridiculous. "Just ask," I said. Ernie blanched. as if I'd asked him to moon the room. "That's not possible, Charles. It's not as if the sellers are anonymous, and it's rude." "Dad, since when have you ever cared about being rude?" Max said. "Everyone in this room is a pompous ass. You fit right in." As if the slight didn't bother him, he said, "That's right. I fit in, and I want it to stay that way. There's a protocol, and asking who is selling the lot would be like asking if the seller is a fraud, or implying I'd be wanting to purchase off-auction. I'll see what I can do." I'd had enough of the family squabble. I'd only come because Max dragged me, and because I thought maybe I'd see my mother, and I could make her nervous. She had more money, even some of it before she married into it, than Ernie Daniels, and she liked to frequent these auctions, making everyone think she'd outbid them. My mother loved me to death, but she was terrified of me in public settings. Can you imagine why? I can't, being the perfect son that I am. Ha! I shrugged the thought off and looked to see if I could find her latest future almost husband. Ernie had said they might be back on U.S. soil, last he'd heard. She didn't usually tell me much about her travels. She just made sure I was doing okay. And I was always okay. We had our strange relationship, and it worked for us. I broke away from Max and refilled my glass. This was a private event at Vin Rouge. The restaurant didn't open until 5, so I exercised my freedom in milling about and moved into the kitchen. I liked the kitchens of finer restaurants. I loved the red tile floors and the thick mats that covered them, keeping anyone from slipping when they were wet. So easy to hose them down at the end of the night, and everything washed down the drains. Stainless steel everywhere, clean and spotless. The grill and appliances looked as if they'd just been installed. So different from what they looked like at the end of the evening, when everything looked black and greasy, as if they'd never be clean again. I'd been in too many kitchens to think about, but never worked in them. Not technically, anyway. The work I did both for Gotcha and for other entities put me in the weirdest places, and many times it was a restaurant kitchen. It's amazing how much dirty money is laundered through restaurants. I worked my way back behind the dishwashing area to the office, hoping to find the door open and hopefully unlocked. Nothing to hide meant no reason to lock the door. I hoped there would be an auction manifest of some kind on the desk. And, of course, no one in the office. I moseyed on over to the last door, and as I did, I saw it was open. A light was on, so I pushed the door. "Excuse me," a female voice said, and the door was pushed back. Well, crap. I pushed back even harder. "I have to go. Is this the gender-neutral bathroom?" The petite woman stood, and the door flew open with gusto. "Really? That's going to be your line?" Then she looked at me. I have no problem flirting with women when the job calls for it, and most flirt right back. I'm handsome that way. That's my line. "How many restaurant kitchens do you know have a bathroom?" She stood with her hands on her hips, her feet planted wide. "I'm not in a habit of hanging around restaurant kitchens, but if you'd like to give me a tour of a few, we could count them together." I winked at her, glad she was short so I could look over her head to see what she was working on. She wasn't dressed to impress people at an auction. She was dressed to work in the office. But even that attire looked good on her. Off-the-rack black slacks, a beige silk blouse, and black, round-toed pumps. The chick was classy in a foreign sort of way. She had the same dark skin and hair as her father. Her demeanor softened a bit. "You shouldn't be back here. It's off-limits, and the restaurant is closed." "I'm here for the preview before the wine auction." I showed her the goblet in my hand. It was still half full of wine. "I see.
And yet still—"
She pointed back toward the kitchen exit. "I'm Charles Parks. You are—" She took me by the elbow and started walking with me.
"I'm walking you back out."
I looked down at her. "You have very nice hands. Tell me, do you drink wine?" She looked up at me and smiled.
"I do."
"Do you enjoy the finer, rare vintages?" I tilted my glass toward her.
"On occasion. My father owns this restaurant, Aidan Beck."
"So you're—"
"Adriana Beck."
"My dearest Adriana Beck, will you join me in a glass of Burgundy and assess a few cases of wine with me?" I thought I might have had her under my spell by then. At the swinging door to the kitchen, she hesitated. "Please, I'm new to this, and I could use a talented eye. It's just for 1 or 2 lots I'm considering."
"Please, please, please." "Fine, but I can't say anything other than the facts, and I don't know nearly as much as my father. You should really be asking him."
She walked through the door with me, her arm still on my elbow. I wondered what Max's reaction would be, but couldn't worry about it. I looked down into Adriana's dark eyes. I'd be embarrassed to ask a seasoned sommelier such novice questions. I took her directly to Lot 18, in case her father came out and chastised her and we didn't get any further. No time to waste. As we walked across the restaurant, I asked, "Do the sellers usually attend the auctions?"
"Sometimes, yes. Sometimes they buy as much as they sell. As a matter of fact, this lot right here, 18, he's here tonight."
She looked around.
"At least he was earlier. Harris Nasution. He's quite extravagant. I always know when he's at one of my dad's auctions. He hits on me. He hits on me when he's not at my father's auctions, frequenting the restaurant too often."
I pulled her in close. "Well, he won't as long as I have you on my arm." I grinned my 1,000-watt grin. She blushed.
"I feel safer already. Seriously, he brings me Peruvian chocolates and exotic flowers. I think he wants to charm me with his money, because he's not that good-looking, and he thinks I'll fall for his money. He's not good at taking no for an answer."
"Not good-looking?" Now I was interested.
"Harris is a petite Asian man with a bit of a belly. Like a skinny woman that's 5 months pregnant. He dresses well, but he's about 10 years behind current fashion. Not out of fashion exactly, but it's as if he doesn't care. You won't be able to miss him if you see him."
"Interesting fellow." I looked around the room.
"Not really. He's rather boring," she said. "Once he even fell asleep in the middle of dinner with my family. My dad just let him sleep at the dinner table. The rest of my family was mortified. My dad said to let him be. My brother was furious that he could be so rude."
"I side with your brother. Is he here tonight?"
"He's roaming around here somewhere."
"Is that so?"
"Yes. His name is Rankin, and he's great with wine. He has a photographic palate. He can recall the flavors of wines from months ago."
"That is something I've never heard of." I was bored now. She wasn't telling me anything I could use. What would Rankin tell me about Lot 18? She shrugged.
"You'd have to ask him. I enjoy wine, but I'm not an enophile like Rankin and Father."
I looked across the room and saw Ernie, but no Max. Adriana was saying something, but it was like white noise in my ears, as I saw Max standing about 20 feet away, leaning against a window, glass of wine in his hand, and a smile on his face. He'd watched the entire ordeal. I suppressed a smile of my own. Nothing says good relationship like a man who isn't jealous. I waved him over. "Adriana, I'd like you to meet my boyfriend, Max. Max Daniels, this is Adriana Beck. Her father is Aiden Beck. She was just telling me all about the man who is selling this lot of wine. I looked at her crimson face. Harris Nasution, was it? Mutely, she nodded. Yes, that's it. Very strange chap, apparently. She nodded again.
Nice to meet you both. I had better get back to the office. I have a lot of paperwork to finish.
She scurried back to her hole, the sweet little mouse that she was. Cute little thing, Max said. She's okay, I agreed. Not really my type. Max's hand brushed mine. It was as close as either of us was comfortable with, as far as public displays of affection. So, Harris Nasution is his name. Let's go talk to my dad. And just like that, Adriana was an afterthought. Max was not the least bit worried that I would do what I had to for a job, and nothing more. Nothing less, either. We didn't have to find Mr. Daniels. He found us. Mr. Daniels, I have some information for you. Charles, please. Ernie. I'm not going to ask again. He made it clear with his clipped words. Ernie, does the name Harris Nasution ring a bell? Sure, I just saw him. He looked around, as if it had been only moments ago. He's got a bit of a reputation. In what way? Fancies himself a ladies' man. He's a bit flamboyant. New money. Custom Hermes suits. Deep cellar from what I've heard, but I've never seen it. Drives a Bentley. A bit over the top, though, and doesn't really fit in. But he gets invited because he has access to some very fine wines. Max leaned in close to his dad and said, He's the man offering the lot you're questioning. Ernie started to open his mouth, then closed it. Then he said, Stay here. I'm going to go someplace private and make a phone call. Max and I milled and chatted and tried our best to fit in. I had an easier time, because I knew about wine. I pretended Max was my bodyguard, so he didn't have to know what he was talking about. Being an FBI agent, he was fit, and the bodyguard persona fit him well. Though he did surprise me. I guess you didn't have to be immersed in viticulture in order to appreciate wine. Just be related to people who did nothing but talk about it. Ernie was gone for about 15 minutes, and when he came back, he looked like he'd spent a month in Alaska in the winter, 10 shades paler. Let's go outside, he said. We walked outside into the foggy afternoon. It seemed the sun only peeked out for a few hours on any given day. But I'd take this weather over any weather anywhere else. First, Bruno said he didn't bottle Domaine Anouk Sommer Côte de Nuit in the 1980s. He'd stopped using the label back in '72. He'd named that label after his wife, and when he caught her cheating on him, he burned the remaining labels and put the plates in his safe. He said the plates were accidentally used on about 100 bottles in 1985, but then he destroyed the plates to make sure the mistake never happened again. Ernie pointed his finger toward the restaurant. I told him I'd check my photo and get back to him. Those bottles in there were labeled 1982. They're definitely counterfeit. We need to find Mr. Nasution, I said. That's the next thing. Ernie took a deep breath. When I was in my car on the phone, I saw him leave. He was out by his Bentley talking to another man. At first, it looked heated. Then I wasn't sure what was going on. He looked harried when he got in his car, and the other guy stalked off. Well, shit. So much for a nice afternoon of wine drinking. Where was he parked? Ernie walked us over to where Harris's car was parked, and I looked around. I heard something vibrating, but I couldn't see anything. loath to do so in my new hand-tailored suit. I got down on my hands and knees.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?